The information provided in this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute professional financial, legal, or career advice. The scholarship landscape is subject to change, and eligibility requirements or award amounts may vary based on institutional updates and external economic factors. While we utilize historical trends and case studies to illustrate potential outcomes, there are no assurances that any individual will receive a specific award. Viewers are strongly encouraged to conduct their own due diligence, consult with official university financial aid offices, and verify all deadlines and criteria independently before submitting applications. The United States is currently facing a silent financial crisis that is reshaping the middle class and redefining the trajectory of the American dream. As of late 2025 and moving into 2026, the national student loan debt has swelled to a staggering $1.77 trillion. This is not just a number on a balance sheet. It represents a generation of graduates who are delaying homeownership, postponing starting families, and entering the workforce with a financial anchor tied to their ankles. In many cases, the cost of a four-year degree at a private institution can now exceed $350,000 when factoring in tuition, room, board, and the hidden costs of academic life. However, while most students are focused on how they will eventually pay back their loans, a select group of high-achieving individuals is navigating the system in a completely different way. There is a historical trend where a small percentage of students, through strategic planning and early preparation, manage to offset almost the entire cost of their higher education through merit-based funding. We are not talking about small $500 book stipends. We are talking about the heavy hitters, the prestigious awards that cover full tuition, housing, and even international research opportunities. Consider the case study of a typical suburban high school student. On one hand, you have the student who follows the traditional path. They apply to their dream schools, wait for the financial aid package, and realize that the gap between the government's expected family contribution and the actual cost of attendance is a 40,000-year deficit. On the other hand, you have the student who understands the mechanics of institutional and private merit aid. This student views scholarship applications not as a lottery, but as a high-stakes professional endeavor. Historical data suggests that billions of dollars in private scholarship funds are distributed annually, yet many of these programs remain underapplied for because students mistakenly believe that these awards are reserved exclusively for the top 0.1% of test takers or those with world-class athletic abilities. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of how merit is defined in the modern educational ecosystem. Merit is no longer just about a 4.0 GPA or a 1600 SAT score. It has evolved into a multidimensional assessment of leadership, community impact, and specialized niche talents. This video serves as a comprehensive masterclass designed to deconstruct the 5 most significant merit-based scholarship opportunities available to American college students today. We are moving beyond the surface-level advice you find on generic educational blogs. We are going to dive deep into the specific architecture of these awards, the psychology of the committees that grant them, and the longitudinal data that shows what successful candidates have in common. This is about solving the primary problem facing every ambitious American family today: the disconnect between the desire for a world-class education and the prohibitive cost of obtaining it. By the time we finish this deep dive, you will understand how to identify which of these 5 major pathways aligns with your specific profile, how to navigate the complex application timelines that often begin years before high school graduation, and how to articulate your value proposition in a way that resonates with the mission statements of these philanthropic and institutional giants. The reality of the current educational market is that tuition inflation has consistently outpaced general economic inflation for decades. A degree that cost $20,000 in the year 2000 might now cost triple that amount, yet the entry-level salaries in many fields have not seen a corresponding 300% increase. This creates a value-to-cost ratio that is increasingly difficult to justify without significant outside funding. Merit scholarships are the primary lever available to students to rebalance this equation. Unlike need-based aid, which is strictly tied to a family's financial standing and can often be limited, merit-based aid is an investment made by an organization or university in a student's future potential. They are essentially betting on your ability to become a leader, a researcher, or an innovator who will bring prestige back to their institution. Throughout this masterclass, we will examine specific case studies of students who secured these top-tier awards. We will look at the exact extracurricular configurations that catch the eye of the Coca-Cola Scholars Foundation, the leadership narratives that drive the GATE scholarship selections, and the academic rigor required for the National Merit Scholarship Corporation's top tier. We will also address the critical middle ground scholarships, those offered by major state universities to attract out-of-state talent, which can often be more lucrative than the Ivy League's need-only packages. This is not a video about hacking the system. It is about understanding the rigorous standards of excellence that these organizations demand and learning how to document your own journey of excellence to meet those standards. We will break down the application funnels, starting from the thousands of initial applicants down to the final few hundred who are flown out for interviews. You will learn about the importance of the Common App versus specialized portals, the strategic use of letters of recommendation that actually say something substantial, and why your personal essay needs to be a narrative of transformation rather than a list of achievements. The goal here is to provide a roadmap that removes the ambiguity from the process. If you have ever felt overwhelmed by the sheer volume of scholarship search engines that seem to return nothing but spam awards or small-dollar contests, this deep dive is the antidote. We are focusing exclusively on the Big Five, the awards that have the power to fundamentally alter a student's financial life and provide them with a debt-free start to their professional career. In the upcoming sections, we will dissect each scholarship with clinical precision. We will analyze the historical trends of winning profiles, providing data on the average number of service hours, the types of leadership roles that are currently in high demand, and the specific academic benchmarks that serve as the baseline for consideration. This is a high-level strategic overview for students and parents who are serious about treating the college application process as a competitive, high-reward endeavor. By understanding the criteria of these top 5 merit-based scholarships, you are not just applying for money. You are positioning yourself within a network of scholars and alumni that can provide mentorship and opportunities long after the graduation caps have been thrown. We are looking at potential outcomes that extend beyond the classroom and into the very foundation of your future. Let's begin the deep dive into the specific programs that define the gold standard of merit-based aid in America. The first pillar of our deep dive into the world of merit-based funding is a program that has become synonymous with American leadership and corporate philanthropy. We are talking about the Coca-Cola Scholars Program Scholarship. To understand the scale of this opportunity in 2026, you have to look past the brand name and focus on the architecture of the selection process itself. This is not a scholarship where you simply submit a transcript and hope for the best. It is a multi-stage evaluation of a student's capacity to influence their community. Historically, this program attracts over 100,000 applicants every single year, yet it only selects 150 students for the final designation of Coca-Cola Scholar. That is an acceptance rate of approximately 0.15%, making it statistically more difficult to get into this program than into any Ivy League university. Imagine a student named Marcus, a high school senior in Houston, Texas, in the fall of 2025. Marcus has a strong academic record, but so do the other 99,999 applicants. In 2026, the baseline for academic excellence has shifted. A 4.0 GPA is no longer the differentiator it once was. Marcus understands that the selection committee is looking for a specific type of potential outcome: the ability to lead and create scalable change. Marcus didn't just join the robotics club. He noticed that the local middle schools lacked funding for STEM programs and organized a citywide initiative that paired high school mentors with younger students, eventually securing a municipal grant to fund the project. This is the level of impact required to move from the initial application phase to the semi-finalist stage. Let's break down the mechanics of this application process step by step. The process begins in the summer or early fall of the senior year. The first phase is entirely online and, interestingly, does not require an essay. This is a common trap for many students. Because there is no essay in Phase 1, many applicants treat it casually. However, this initial phase is an automated screening process that evaluates the breadth and depth of your involvement. You are asked to categorize your activities into school-based organizations, community service, and employment. The data suggests that the students who advance to the next round are those who show sustained commitment over several years, rather than a flurry of activities in their junior and senior years. If Marcus had only started his STEM initiative 3 months before applying, he likely would have been filtered out. The historical trend shows that the committee favors students who have held significant leadership roles, think president, founder, or chair, within their chosen organizations for at least 2 to 3 years. Once the initial 100,000 are narrowed down to roughly 1,600 semi-finalists, the intensity of the process shifts dramatically. This is Phase 2, which typically occurs in the late fall. This is where Marcus would be required to submit a much more comprehensive application, including essays, a secondary school report, and a letter of recommendation. The essays are the heart of the Phase 2 application. In 2026, the prompts often focus on the concept of service leadership. The committee isn't asking Marcus to list his achievements again. They want to see his philosophy of leadership. How does he handle conflict within his team? How does he measure the success of his community projects? Case studies of successful essays show a consistent pattern. They tell a story of a specific problem, a strategic intervention, and a measurable result. For Marcus, his essay wouldn't just say he likes robotics. It would detail how his program increased middle school STEM enrollment by 30% over 2 years. The jump from 1,600 semi-finalists to 150 regional finalists is where the most rigorous vetting occurs. These finalists are then invited to participate in a series of interviews. In the past, these were held in person during a Scholar Weekend in Atlanta, and while the format has adapted to the digital age of 2026, the core evaluation remains the same. The interviewers are often alumni of the program, former scholars who are now leaders in medicine, law, technology, and public policy. They are looking for authenticity and a vision for the future. They want to know how the $20,000 award will be leveraged. While $20,000 is a significant sum of money, the true value of being a Coca-Cola Scholar in the year 2026 is the network. Scholars gain access to a community of high achievers who provide mentorship and professional opportunities for the rest of their lives. Imagine Marcus walking into a room, or a virtual networking hub, where he can connect with a senior executive at a tech giant or a world-renowned researcher simply because they share the title of Coca-Cola Scholar. The financial structure of the award is also worth noting for its flexibility. The $20,000 is typically distributed over 4 years, but it is not restricted to just tuition. It can often be applied to other institutional costs of attendance, which is a critical detail in an era where housing and meal plans are seeing record-breaking price increases. This flexibility allows students like Marcus to attend their top-choice university without having to take on high-interest private loans for living expenses. Furthermore, being a Coca-Cola Scholar acts as a powerful signal to other scholarship committees and university admissions officers. It is a badge of merit that carries immense weight in the American educational landscape. However, the Coca-Cola Scholars Program is just one piece of the puzzle. It represents the corporate-funded model of merit aid, where the emphasis is on leadership and community impact. But what about the students who are pure academic powerhouses? What about those whose merit is defined by their performance on standardized benchmarks that are used by thousands of universities to determine who gets a free ride? There is another scholarship program, one that is rooted in the very fabric of the American high school experience, that uses a single test to unlock billions of dollars in institutional aid. It is a program that requires a completely different strategy, one focused on precision, timing, and a deep understanding of the SAT. If you think the competition for the Coca-Cola Scholars Program is intense, you need to understand the mechanics of the National Merit Scholarship Corporation. This program represents the most widespread path to a full-ride scholarship in the United States, yet millions of students miss out on it every year because they don't understand the qualifying index scores or the specific deadlines of their junior year. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to deconstruct the National Merit Scholarship. We will look at how a single 3-hour exam can be the key to $100,000 or more in university-specific funding, and why the state you live in might be the most important factor in whether or not you become a finalist. We will explore the case study of a student who missed the cutoff by a single point and what they did to pivot their strategy. The stakes are about to get much higher as we move from corporate leadership awards to the systematic world of standardized merit. The National Merit Scholarship Program is the ultimate gatekeeper of institutional aid in the United States. And in 2026, the strategy surrounding this single exam has become more calculated than ever before. To understand the magnitude of this program, you have to look at the numbers. Every October, approximately 1.3 million high school juniors sit down to take the SAT/NMSQT. For most, it is just a practice run for the SAT. But for the high-achieving student, this is the most important 3 hours of their high school career. This exam is the only gateway to becoming a National Merit Scholar, a title that serves as a universal signal of academic elite status to every admissions office in the country. Let us look at the case study of Elena, a student in a high-performing district in Northern Virginia. Elena is a straight-A student, but she knows that in 2026, a high GPA is common. To differentiate herself, She begins her National Merit Strategy in her sophomore year. The National Merit Scholarship Corporation, or NMSC, uses a very specific metric called the Selection Index score. This index is calculated by doubling the sum of your reading and writing score and your math score. Historically, this means the verbal section is weighted twice as heavily as the math section. For Elena, who is a math prodigy but occasionally struggles with the nuances of advanced rhetorical analysis, this data point is critical. She shifts her preparation focus to ensure her verbal score is near perfect, knowing that a single missed question in reading can impact her index score more than 2 missed questions in math. The most complex and often frustrating aspect of the National Merit Program is the state-by-state cutoff system. To become a semi-finalist, you must score in the top 1% of students in your specific state. This creates a geographical disparity that savvy families have tracked for decades. In 2026, the estimated cutoff for a semi-finalist in a highly competitive state like Massachusetts or New Jersey might be as high as 223. Meanwhile, in a state with a different testing demographic such as West Virginia or Wyoming, the cutoff might sit closer to 210. Imagine if Elena lived in a state with a lower cutoff. With her score of 218, she would be a semi-finalist and on the path to massive funding. But because she is in Virginia, where the 2026 cutoff is projected at 221, she finds herself in the category of commended students. While being commended is an honor that goes to the top 50,000 scores nationally, it does not carry the same financial weight as the semi-finalist designation. This is why many families in 2026 are increasingly looking at alternative entry requirements. If a student misses the SAT due to an illness or a family emergency, the NMSC allows for something called alternate entry, where a student can use their official SAT scores to qualify. The historical trends show that students using alternate entry often have a higher success rate because they have more opportunities to take the SAT than the one-time only SAT. For the 16,000 students who do reach the semi-finalist stage, the journey is far from over. This is where the step-by-step administrative precision becomes vital. To move from semi-finalist to finalist, Elena would need to submit a detailed application that mirrors a college application. This includes a high school transcript showing consistent academic excellence, a recommendation from her principal, and a self-descriptive essay. Furthermore, she must provide a confirming score. The NMSC wants to ensure that the student's SAT performance was not a fluke, so they require a high score on the actual SAT or ACT to validate the initial result. Now, let us look at the potential outcomes of reaching the finalist stage. There are 3 types of National Merit Scholarships. The first is the $2,500 National Merit Scholarship, which is a one-time payment. While prestigious, this is the smallest of the rewards. The second type is the corporate-sponsored scholarship, where companies provide funding for the children of their employees or for students in specific communities. But the third type, the college-sponsored merit scholarship, is where the real life-changing money resides. Consider a student named Jason from Florida. Jason is a National Merit finalist in 2026. While he is considering the Ivy League, he receives an offer from a large public institution like the University of Alabama or the University of Central Florida. These institutions have historically used national merit status as a primary tool to climb the national rankings. For Jason, the potential outcome is a full-ride package. This doesn't just mean tuition. At many of these universities, a National Merit finalist receives 4 years of tuition, 4 years of on-campus housing, a stipend for textbooks, and even a one-time grant of $2,000 to $5,000 for a study abroad program or a research project. In 2026, the total value of such a package can exceed $150,000 at a public university, and much more at a private one. This is the strategic pivot many students are making. Instead of taking on $200,000 in debt to attend a name-brand private school that offers zero merit aid, they are using their national merit status to secure a debt-free education at a top-tier state honors college. They are trading the prestige of an Ivy League logo for the financial freedom of a zero-balance graduation. Case studies of these students show that they often enter the workforce with a massive advantage, as they can accept lower starting salary internships in competitive fields or go straight into graduate school without the burden of undergraduate loans. To navigate this, you must follow a strict timeline. The process begins in the spring of your sophomore year with practice exams. By October of your junior year, you must be at your peak performance level. By the following April, you will receive your score and can estimate if you have met your state's cutoff based on the historical trends of previous years. In September of your senior year, the official semi-finalist list is released. This is when the heavy lifting begins. You have a very narrow window, usually about 4 to 6 weeks, to complete the finalist application and secure your confirming SAT score. If you miss a single deadline or fail to submit your transcript, you are disqualified. There are no appeals and no second chances. This is the definition of a high-stakes academic environment. The National Merit Program is a machine that rewards those who are both academically gifted and meticulously organized. It is a system that filters out 1 million people to find the 7,000 who will eventually receive the title of National Merit Scholar. But what if you aren't a standardized testing expert? What if your merit isn't found in a multiple-choice booklet, but in your ability to innovate, to build, and to solve complex social problems on a global scale? There is a scholarship that is often called the Junior Nobel Prize. It is an award that looks past the SAT and into the very soul of a student's creative and intellectual output. It is a program that offers up to $50,000 in funding and places you in a room with the most brilliant young minds on the planet. As we move into the next section, we are going to look at a scholarship that requires no test scores and no minimum GPA. Yet it is arguably the most prestigious award a high school student can win. We are going to dive into the world of the Davidson Fellows. This is where we see the intersection of pure genius and practical application. If you have ever felt like the traditional school system was too slow for you, or if you have a project that could change the world, you need to understand how this program operates. The criteria are unlike anything we have discussed so far, and the selection process is a mystery to most until now. The Davidson Fellows Scholarship is widely regarded as one of the most prestigious undergraduate awards in the world, often referred to as the Junior Nobel Prize. In 2026, as the barrier to entry for top-tier universities continues to climb, this scholarship stands out because it completely ignores the traditional metrics of the American education system. It does not care about your class rank, your SAT scores, or how many varsity letters you have earned. Instead, it focuses on one singular, high-stakes requirement: the completion of a significant piece of work. The Davidson Institute defines a significant piece of work as a project that has the potential to make a meaningful contribution to society. This is not a science fair project or a well-written term paper. This is a professional-level contribution to a field of study. Imagine a 17-year-old student named Maya living in Seattle in early 2026. Maya is not just a high school senior. She is a researcher who has spent the last 3 years investigating the intersection of machine learning and marine biology. While her peers were focused on their prom themes or college applications, Maya was working in a lab at a local university, developing an autonomous underwater vehicle that uses computer vision to track the health of coral reefs in real time. This is the level of sophistication the Davidson Fellows Committee is looking for. Maya isn't just a student of science. She is a scientist. For Maya, the potential outcome of applying for this scholarship is an award of $50,000, $25,000, or $10,000, which can be used at any accredited college or university in the United States. To understand how to navigate the Davidson Fellows application, we have to look at the categories. They are broad but demanding: science, technology, engineering, mathematics, literature, music, philosophy, and the uniquely titled outside the box category. Each category has its own specific set of rigorous standards. In the science and engineering tracks, historical trends show that winning projects are almost always original research that has been peer-reviewed or presented at professional conferences. For example, a previous winner developed a new method for early-stage pancreatic cancer detection that was more cost-effective than current clinical standards. This was not a theoretical model, it was a validated tool. In the literature and music categories, the requirements are equally daunting. A literature fellow is not someone who writes a good essay. They are someone who has produced a body of work, perhaps a novel or a collection of poetry, that demonstrates a professional level of mastery over the craft. Imagine a student who has written a 300-page manuscript exploring the nuances of the first-generation American experience, receiving feedback from established authors, and perhaps even seeking publication. In music, the student must provide a portfolio of recordings that show a virtuoso level of performance, or an original composition that reflects a deep understanding of music theory and innovation. The application process for the Davidson Fellows is a deep dive into your own intellectual journey. It begins with the project description, which must be written for an audience of experts in your chosen field. If you are applying in the mathematics category, your work will be reviewed by mathematicians, not general admissions officers. This means you cannot rely on flashy language or emotional storytelling. You must rely on the data, the methodology, and the results. You are required to submit an analysis of significance, where you explain why your work matters. How does your research move the needle? What gap in human knowledge does your project fill? This is where many applicants struggle because it requires a level of self-awareness and field-specific knowledge that is rare in high school students. Another critical component of the Davidson application is the role of the nominators. Unlike a standard letter of recommendation from a teacher, a Davidson nominator must be someone who is an expert in the field of your project and can testify to the originality and significance of your work. For Maya, her nominator would likely be the principal investigator of the lab where she conducted her research. This person must be able to confirm that Maya did the work herself and that the findings are legitimate. The historical data suggests that the strength of the nominator's endorsement is often the deciding factor in the final rounds of selection. Let's look at the outside-the-box category, which is perhaps the most fascinating part of this scholarship. This category is for students whose work does not fit neatly into the standard academic silos. It could be a massive social entrepreneurship project, a unique philosophical treatise, or a breakthrough in a niche field like linguistics or urban planning. Case studies of outside-the-box winners show individuals who saw a problem in their community or the world and created a scalable, innovative solution. Imagine a student who created a nonprofit that utilizes blockchain technology to ensure the transparent distribution of food aid in developing nations. This project combines technology, ethics, and social science, making it a perfect candidate for the outside-the-box designation. The financial structure of the Davidson Fellows Award is also unique. Because the money is placed in a trust, it can be used for more than just tuition. It can cover room, board, books, and even specific equipment needed for continued research or artistic development. This flexibility is a massive advantage in 2026, where the miscellaneous costs of attendance are often the most unpredictable part of a college budget. Furthermore, becoming a Davidson Fellow grants you entry into a lifelong community. Every year, the new fellows are honored at a ceremony in Washington, D.C., where they meet with members of Congress and previous winners who are now leading the world in their respective fields. The potential outcomes for a Davidson Fellow extend far beyond the money. This title is one of the most powerful signals you can have on a resume. When a top-tier graduate program or a prestigious employer sees Davidson Fellow, they know they are looking at someone who has already proven they can operate at a professional level. It is a validation of your capacity for high-level, independent work. However, the path to the Davidson Fellows is paved with thousands of hours of dedication. It is not something you can decide to apply for in your senior year. It is the culmination of a multi-year obsession with a specific topic. While the Davidson Fellows Award celebrates the individual genius of a student working in a lab or a studio, there is another merit-based pathway that focuses on the potential for leadership within the public sector. This pathway is not about your research or your art, but about your ability to engage with the American democratic process and your desire to serve the nation. It is a scholarship that offers a direct line to the halls of power in Washington, D.C., and it is funded by one of the most historic foundations in the country. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to explore a scholarship that combines intense academic competition with a week-long immersive experience in the federal government. This is a program where only 2 students from each state are selected, and the rewards include a $10,000 scholarship and unparalleled access to the highest levels of American leadership. We are going to look at the United States Senate Youth Program. This is for the students who see themselves as future governors, senators, or presidents. The selection process is unlike anything else, involving exams on the Constitution and the mechanics of government that would challenge most law students. If your merit is found in your civic engagement and your political acumen, you need to see how the next program operates. The United States Senate Youth Program, also known as the USSYP, is arguably the most intense and prestigious civic-based merit scholarship in existence. Established by Senate resolution in 1962 and funded by the Hearst Foundations, this program does not just look for students with high grades. It looks for the next generation of American policymakers, diplomats, and constitutional scholars. In 2026, the competition for one of the 2 coveted spots per state has reached a fever pitch, as students recognize that this is more than a $10,000 scholarship. It is a week-long audition for a career in the highest echelons of government. Imagine Sarah, a high school senior in Columbus, Ohio, in the early months of 2026. Sarah is the student body president of her large public high school, but she also serves as a youth representative on her city's zoning board. For the USSYP, this type of active, elected leadership is the baseline requirement. You cannot simply be a member of a club. You must hold a high-level, elected or appointed leadership position in a student or community organization that is clearly defined by its service to others. Historical trends show that the selection committees in each state's Department of Education are increasingly looking for students who have moved beyond the school walls and engaged with municipal or state-level governance. The journey for Sarah begins with the rigorous state-level selection process that is often more grueling than the college application itself. Each state has its own specific criteria, but almost all of them involve a qualifying exam that tests a student's deep knowledge of the United States Constitution, the three branches of government, and major historical milestones in American jurisprudence. This is not a basic civics test. Sarah must be prepared to answer nuanced questions about the Federalist Papers, the evolution of the Commerce Clause, and the specific procedural rules of the United States Senate. Historical data indicates that the students who succeed are those who have spent months studying constitutional law, at a level typically expected of first-year law students. Step 1 for Sarah involves identifying her state's specific deadline, which usually falls in the early autumn of her senior year. She must submit a comprehensive portfolio that includes her academic transcripts, a detailed record of her leadership roles, and a series of essays that articulate her vision for the future of American democracy. If her portfolio passes the initial screening, she is invited to the state capitol for an interview and a timed essay examination. In 2026, these interviews are often conducted by panels consisting of educators, former delegates, and state government officials. They are looking for more than just a recitation of facts. They are looking for the ability to engage in civil discourse, the capacity to analyze complex public policy issues, and a genuine commitment to public service. Case studies of successful USSYP delegates reveal a consistent pattern of high-stakes engagement. Consider a past delegate who successfully advocated for a change in state-level recycling laws before even graduating high school, or a student who organized a multi-district voter registration drive that resulted in thousands of new young voters being added to the rolls. These are the potential outcomes when a student treats their merit as a tool for social and political change. For Sarah, her work on the zoning board, where she advocated for affordable housing initiatives for young families, is the centerpiece of her application. The true pinnacle of the USSYP is Washington Week. In March of 2026, Sarah and 103 other delegates, 2 from each state, the District of Columbia, and the Department of Defense Education Activity, will be flown to Washington, D.C., for a week of total immersion in the federal government. This is not a typical field trip. Historically, delegates are assigned a military mentor, usually a high-ranking officer from the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, or Coast Guard, who guides them through the week. The itinerary is a masterclass in American power. Delegates typically meet with the President of the United States, a Justice of the Supreme Court, members of the Cabinet, and high-ranking officials from the State Department and the Pentagon. Imagine Sarah sitting in the Senate chamber, listening to a private briefing from the Senate Majority Leader, or standing in the East Room of the White House as the President discusses the nuances of international trade policy. This level of access is unparalleled for any other high school program in the country. The goal of Washington Week is to provide these young leaders with a first-hand look at the complexities of governing a diverse and democratic nation. It is designed to inspire them to return to their communities and, eventually, to the national stage as informed and dedicated public servants. The $10,000 scholarship is the financial component of the award, but in the context of 2026 tuition rates, its value is often eclipsed by the professional prestige of the USSYP name. When Sarah applies to top-tier universities, the title of USSYP delegate serves as a powerful signal of her academic rigor and leadership potential. Furthermore, the scholarship is officially titled the Hearst Scholarship, and it is paid directly to the university of the student's choice. It can be used for tuition, fees, and other educational expenses, providing a solid foundation for a student's undergraduate career. However, the real power of the USSYP is found in its alumni network. The historical trends of USSYP graduates are remarkable. Alumni include former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, Senator Susan Collins, and numerous federal judges, ambassadors, and high-level advisors. By becoming a delegate, Sarah is not just winning a scholarship, she is being inducted into a fraternity of leaders that spans decades. This network provides a level of mentorship and career guidance that money simply cannot buy. In 2026, where the professional world is increasingly defined by who you know as much as what you know, the USSYP Alumni Network is a lifelong asset. To maximize the potential outcomes of a USSYP application, students must start early. For a student currently in their freshman or sophomore year, the strategy should be to secure an elective office that carries weight. Simply being a member of the debate team is not enough. You must be the captain who organizes the tournaments. Being a member of the Key Club is not enough. You must be the regional governor who oversees multiple chapters. The USSYP looks for the person who is at the top of the leadership pyramid. Furthermore, preparation for the qualifying exam must be systematic. Students should dive into the nuances of the United States Code, stay informed on current events through multiple reputable news sources, and practice writing persuasive, evidence-based essays on complex constitutional questions. The USSYP is a merit scholarship for the student who thrives under pressure and who sees the American democratic experiment as their personal calling. But what if your background doesn't allow for the time to serve in multiple elected offices? What if you are a high-achieving student from a low-income background who is doing everything right, but still faces a massive financial gap that a $10,000 scholarship won't even begin to cover? There is a program designed specifically to level the playing field for the most ambitious and academically talented students from the most challenging financial circumstances. It is a scholarship that doesn't just give you a stipend. It provides a full ride to any university in the country, including the Ivy League, and it is backed by one of the largest philanthropic organizations in history. In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to look at the Gates Scholarship. This is the heavy hitter for students who have the merit but lack the means. We will deconstruct the three-phase application process that screens for leadership, character, and academic persistence. We will explore how a student from a rural town or an inner-city school can use this program to secure a future that was once considered mathematically impossible. The level of detail required for this next award is staggering, and the stakes are higher than anything we have discussed so far. The Gates Scholarship stands as the definitive heavyweight champion of merit-based aid for students who have demonstrated extraordinary academic achievement while navigating significant financial hurdles. In the context of 2026, where the cost of a degree from an elite private university can hover near the $90,000 per year mark, this scholarship is quite literally a life-altering mechanism. To understand the Gates Scholarship, you must first understand the concept of a last dollar award. This is not a flat check for $20,000. Instead, it is a commitment to cover every single penny of the cost of attendance that is not covered by other financial aid and the expected family contribution. For a student attending a school like Stanford or MIT, this could result in a total package exceeding $360,000 over 4 years. Imagine Mateo, a high school senior in a densely populated neighborhood in Phoenix, Arizona, in early 2026. Mateo is a first-generation American, the son of parents who worked multiple jobs to ensure he had the resources to excel. He has a 4.1 weighted GPA, is the captain of the debate team, and spends his weekends volunteering as a translator at a local community clinic. Despite his achievements, the sticker price of the universities he has been accepted into is a source of immense stress for his family. The Gates Scholarship exists for students exactly like Mateo, those who have the merit of a future world leader, but are currently restricted by the economic reality of their household. The selection process for the Gates Scholarship is a three-phase marathon that tests a student's endurance and self-reflection. Phase 1 begins in the late summer of the senior year. It is a streamlined online application that focuses on the basic eligibility requirements. To even be considered in 2026, a student must be a high school senior from at least one of the following ethnicities: African American, American Indian or Alaska Native, Asian and Pacific Islander American, or Hispanic American. They must also be Pell eligible, which is a federal designation for students with exceptional financial need. Historically, the foundation receives over 30,000 applications in this initial phase. Of those, only about 2,000 are selected to move on as semi-finalists. For Mateo, reaching the semi-finalist stage means the real work begins. Phase 2 is an exhaustive deep dive into his character and potential. This part of the application requires multiple essays, letters of recommendation, and official transcripts. The essays are not the standard "Why do you want to go to college?" prompts. Instead, they are designed to evaluate what the foundation calls personal success skills. These include emotional intelligence, the ability to overcome adversity, and a clearly defined sense of purpose. Mateo must write about a time he faced a systemic barrier and the specific step-by-step actions he took to navigate it. He must demonstrate that his leadership is not just a title on a resume, but a lived experience that has resulted in a measurable impact on his community. In 2026, the Gates Scholarship Committee is looking for students who are not just high performers, but who are scalable. They want to see that Mateo's influence can grow from a local community clinic to a national or global level. Case studies of successful Gates scholars show a recurring theme of resilience. One previous scholar, for instance, didn't just mention their high grades. They detailed how they maintained those grades while working 30 hours a week to help pay their family's rent during a medical crisis. This is the level of grit the committee prioritizes. They are looking for the historical trend of students who, when given total financial freedom, will use that leverage to solve complex problems in medicine, technology, or social justice. The move from 2,000 semi-finalists to 600 finalists is the most competitive cut in the process. Those 600 students are then invited to the final stage, the interview. In 2026, these interviews are high-stakes conversations with leaders in various industries and alumni of the program. Imagine Mateo sitting in a professional interview setting, being asked to articulate how he plans to give back to his community once he has obtained his degree. The interview is not about testing his knowledge of biology or history, it is about assessing his vision. The interviewers are looking for authenticity. They can tell the difference between a student who has been coached to say the right things and a student like Mateo, whose passion for service is evident in every word he speaks. Once the final 300 scholars are selected, the financial impact is immediate and comprehensive. The Gates Scholarship covers tuition, fees, room, board, books, and even transportation. In 2026, where the miscellaneous costs of college, like a reliable laptop or a flight home for winter break, can derail a low-income student's budget, the Gates Scholarship removes these obstacles entirely. This allows Mateo to focus 100% of his energy on his studies and his leadership development. He doesn't have to take a part-time job at the campus dining hall to make ends meet. He can instead spend that time in a research lab or leading a student organization. But the potential outcomes of the Gates Scholarship extend far beyond the financial package. Scholars are granted access to a massive support system. This includes academic and career mentoring, an online community for peer support, and invitations to exclusive leadership conferences. For a student like Mateo, who may not have a network of professional mentors in his immediate circle, this access is invaluable. It levels the playing field, giving him the same social capital that his wealthier peers have had since birth. Historical data shows that Gates scholars graduate at higher rates than the national average and are significantly more likely to pursue graduate degrees at elite institutions. The application timeline is rigid. If Mateo misses the September deadline for Phase 1, he is out. If he fails to submit his FAFSA or his CSS profile by the required dates, his funding could be at risk. This scholarship requires a level of administrative competence that mirrors the professional world. Students must be organized, proactive, and willing to advocate for themselves throughout the 8-month selection cycle. It is a rigorous process because the foundation is making a massive, multi-year investment in the student's future. While the Gates Scholarship is the gold standard for low-income, high-achieving minority students, it is highly specific in its eligibility. But what if you don't fit into those specific demographic or financial categories? What if your merit is purely academic, and you are looking for a program that rewards intellectual curiosity and a commitment to the fundamental principles of a free society? There is a scholarship that focuses on the great books and the history of Western thought, offering a significant financial award and a chance to join a community of scholars dedicated to the pursuit of truth. As we move into the next part of this masterclass, we are going to look at a scholarship that is rapidly gaining prestige among students interested in the humanities and social sciences. It is a program that values the ability to think critically, argue persuasively, and engage with the foundational texts of civilization. This scholarship offers more than just money. It offers an intellectual home for students who feel that modern education has become too transactional. In the next section, we will deconstruct the Jack Miller Center's opportunities and other similar programs that reward the scholar citizen. We are shifting from the world of massive corporate and philanthropic grants to the refined world of intellectual and philosophical merit. If you have ever felt that your best work happens in a seminar room or during a deep dive into historical archives, you need to understand how these programs can fund your path to becoming a thought leader in the 21st century. Entering the sphere of the scholar citizen requires a fundamental shift in how you perceive merit. While the previous awards we discussed, like the Gates or the Coca-Cola Scholarship, place a heavy emphasis on community mobilization and scalable leadership, the category of intellectual merit focuses on something much rarer in the modern educational landscape: the ability to think deeply, argue precisely, and engage with the historical foundations of the American experiment. In 2026, where digital distractions and surface-level analysis have become the norm, students who can demonstrate a commitment to the pursuit of truth and civic virtue are becoming the most sought-after candidates for a specific tier of elite funding. At the pinnacle of this category sits the Coolidge Scholarship. The Coolidge Scholarship is a unicorn in the world of financial aid. It is a non-need-based, full-ride 4-year merit scholarship that can be used at any accredited college or university in the United States. In an era where most full-ride awards are either tied to a specific institution or restricted by financial need, the Coolidge stands alone because it is strictly merit-based. It does not care if your family makes $20,000 or $2 million a year. It only cares about the quality of your mind and your commitment to the values of the 30th President of the United States, Calvin Coolidge. However, there is a catch that catches thousands of students off guard every year. The application deadline is in the winter of your junior year of high school. If you wait until you are a senior to look for this, you have already missed your window. Imagine Chloe, a high school junior in 2026 living in a competitive suburb of Chicago. Chloe is a standout in her AP United States history class and a captain of the debate team. She isn't just interested in getting an A. She is interested in the philosophical underpinnings of why certain policies succeed while others fail. She stumbles upon the Coolidge Scholarship in the fall of her junior year and realizes she has exactly 4 months to prepare. The potential outcome of her success is staggering: a full ride to a school like the University of Chicago or Yale, covering tuition, room, board, and required fees, valued at well over $375,000 by 2026 standards. The first step in Chloe's masterclass of preparation is a deep dive into the core text of the scholarship, the autobiography of Calvin Coolidge. The selection committee isn't looking for a summary of the book. They are looking for a student who can engage with Coolidge's philosophy of restraint, thrift, and civil service. Chloe doesn't just read the book once. She treats it like a primary source in a graduate seminar. She looks at how Coolidge's views on federal spending and individual responsibility might offer historical trends that could be applied to the economic challenges of 2026. When she begins the essay portion of the application, she isn't just writing about herself. She is writing a sophisticated analysis of how these timeless principles manifest in her own life and her vision for the country. Historical trends show that the Coolidge Scholarship is looking for students who possess what they call academic excellence of the highest order. This goes beyond a high GPA. The committee looks at the rigor of your curriculum and your performance on standardized tests, but they also look for intellectual curiosity that extends beyond the classroom. For Chloe, this means her application highlights her independent research into the history of the Federalist Papers and her organization of a nonpartisan community forum where students discuss local government policies. Case studies of previous winners show that they are often students who have a niche, a specific area of the humanities or social sciences where they have demonstrated professional level depth. The application itself is divided into several rigorous sections. Beyond the common demographic information, there are the essays. These are not your typical college prompts. They require you to articulate your understanding of the American heritage and the importance of civic virtue. You must demonstrate that you are a scholar who understands that with great intellectual ability comes a responsibility to serve the public good. Chloe spends weeks refining her narrative, ensuring that every sentence demonstrates her capacity for clear, persuasive writing. In 2026, the selection committee is particularly wary of AI-generated content. They are looking for the idiosyncratic, deeply personal voice of a young person who has truly grappled with these ideas. Another critical component for Chloe is securing the right letters of recommendation. For the Coolidge, a letter from a math teacher who says you are good at calculus isn't enough. She needs a recommender who can speak to her intellectual maturity and her character. She chooses her history teacher and a local judge she interned for. These recommenders must be able to provide specific examples of Chloe's ability to engage in civil discourse, even when she disagrees with her peers. In the polarized environment of 2026, the ability to maintain restraint and respect in debate is a key indicator of the civic virtue the foundation prizes. Once the applications are submitted, the pool of several thousand is narrowed down to about 100 semifinalists. From there, The committee selects the finalists who are invited to the Coolidge Finalist Weekend in Woodstock and Plymouth Notch, Vermont. This is where the process becomes truly immersive. Imagine Chloe standing in the very room where Calvin Coolidge was sworn in as president by his father. She isn't just there for an interview. She is there to participate in a series of seminars and discussions with some of the leading historians and public policy experts in the country. The interview itself is a high-pressure, intellectual exchange. The judges might ask her to defend her essay's thesis, or to comment on a contemporary policy issue through the lens of Coolidge's philosophy. The potential outcomes for the finalists are life-changing. While only a small handful are named Coolidge scholars and receive the full ride, there is a second tier of recognition, the Coolidge Senators. These students, usually numbering around 100, are invited to a special leadership summit in Washington, D.C., and receive a one-time $1,000 grant. While the money is a fraction of the full ride, the title of Coolidge Senator is a massive signal to university admissions offices. It tells every school in the country that you are among the top 100 student citizens in the United States. To truly excel in this category of merit, a student must begin their journey long before the application opens. If you are a freshman or sophomore in 2026, the strategy is to build a profile of intellectual depth. This means reading outside of your school assignments, engaging in high-level debate or mock trial, and finding ways to serve your community that require actual leadership and sacrifice. The Coolidge Scholarship isn't just rewarding what you have done. It is investing in the kind of person you are becoming. It is a reward for the student who realizes that the most important work of a citizen is to be well-informed, disciplined, and dedicated to the principles of a free society. This focus on the humanities and civic merit provides a critical balance to the science and technology-heavy awards we've explored. But as we look at the landscape of 2026, there is one more massive category of merit aid that most students overlook because they are too focused on national brands. This is the world of institutional merit, the massive hidden scholarships offered by individual universities to attract the top 5% of the national applicant pool. These awards often go far beyond the value of the national programs and come with perks that include priority registration, faculty mentorship, and exclusive study abroad funding. In the next part of this deep dive, we are going to pull back the curtain on the shadow system of merit aid. We will look at why a student who is rejected from an Ivy League school might actually end up with a much better deal at a top-tier state honors college. We are going to deconstruct the specific programs at universities like the University of Virginia, Georgia Tech, and UT Austin that are designed to keep the best and brightest in state, or to lure them from across the country with packages that rival the most prestigious national awards. If you think your only hope for a full ride is a national competition, you are missing half the map. We are about to show you where the rest of the money is hidden. To understand the true scale of institutional merit aid in 2026, you have to look beyond the national competitions and focus on the individual universities that are currently engaged in a bidding war for the top talent in America. While the Ivy League and other ultra-selective private institutions have historically moved toward a strictly need-based financial aid model, major public research universities and elite private colleges have doubled down on merit. They use these prestigious programs to lure students who would otherwise be headed to Harvard or Yale. This is what we call the shadow system of merit aid, and for the right student, the financial and professional rewards of these programs often exceed anything offered by the more famous national foundations. Imagine a student named Jackson, a high school senior in Charlotte, North Carolina, in the fall of 2025 as he prepares for the 2026 application cycle. Jackson is a perfect candidate for the Ivy League. He has a near-perfect academic record, elite test scores, and has founded a nonprofit that uses artificial intelligence to optimize food bank logistics in his county. In the traditional narrative, Jackson's goal would be to get into a school like Princeton. However, Jackson's strategy is different. He is targeting the Morehead Cain Scholarship at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and the Jefferson Scholarship at the University of Virginia. The Jefferson Scholars Program at the University of Virginia is a prime example of how institutional merit has evolved. In 2026, the value of this scholarship for an out-of-state student exceeds $340,000 over 4 years. But the money is just the baseline. The real value lies in the selection process and the community. Unlike the other scholarships we have discussed, the Jefferson Scholarship is primarily a nomination-based program. This means that Jackson cannot simply decide to apply on his own. His high school must be one of the select institutions invited to nominate a student. If his school is not on the list, he can potentially petition for eligibility, but the historical trend shows that the most successful candidates come from a pipeline where school counselors identify the top 1% of their graduating class years in advance. The selection process for the Jefferson is a high-stakes regional competition. Jackson must first win the approval of a regional committee, which often consists of prominent UVA alumni and local business leaders. This is followed by a rigorous finalist weekend in Charlottesville. During this weekend, the finalists are subjected to seminars, writing exercises, and panel interviews that are designed to test their intellectual agility. The committee is not just looking for smart students. They are looking for individuals who embody the Jeffersonian ideals of leadership, scholarship, and citizenship. Case studies of successful Jefferson scholars show that they are often students who possess a unique combination of extreme academic focus and high-level interpersonal charisma. While Jackson is navigating the Jefferson process, he is also deep in the application for the Morehead-Cain at UNC Chapel Hill. Established in 1945, the Morehead-Cain was the first merit scholarship program in the United States and remains one of the most prestigious. In 2026, the potential outcomes for a Morehead-Cain scholar are virtually limitless. The program is built around the concept of the 4-summer experience. While a typical college student might spend their summers working a local job, a Morehead-Cain scholar is required to participate in 4 distinct summer tracks: outdoor leadership, public service, private enterprise, and global perspective. Imagine Jackson in the summer after his freshman year, participating in an outward-bound survival course in the mountains of the Pacific Northwest to develop physical and mental resilience. The following summer, he might be working with a non-governmental organization in Rwanda, and by his junior year, he could be interning at a major venture capital firm in London. These experiences are fully funded by the foundation, providing a level of global exposure that most students do not achieve until much later in their careers. The historical data suggests that Morehead-Cain alumni are disproportionately represented in the ranks of Rhodes Scholars, CEOs, and high-level government officials. Now, let us look at the financial trade-off Jackson faces. If he gets into a top-tier private school with no merit aid, his family might be expected to pay $90,000 a year. Over 4 years, that is a $360,000 investment from his parents or a massive debt burden for Jackson. If he wins the Morehead-Cain or the Jefferson, the cost of his education is zero. In fact, he often receives a stipend that covers his living expenses, books, and research. This is why in 2026, we are seeing a historical trend where the most strategic students are choosing these elite merit programs over the prestige of the Ivy League. They are essentially being paid to attend a top-tier university and are entering the workforce with zero debt and a global network of powerful alumni. Another critical player in this shadow system is the Stamp Scholarship. Unlike the Morehead-Cain or the Jefferson, which are tied to specific universities, the Stamp Scholars program partners with nearly 40 top universities across the country, including Georgia Tech, the University of Southern California, and Purdue. The Stamp Scholarship is often the most lucrative award on these campuses. In 2026, the defining feature of the Stamp Scholarship is the Enrichment Fund. This is a separate pot of money, often ranging from $10,000 to $15,000, that the student can use specifically for research, study abroad, or unpaid internships. For a student like Jackson, the Stamp Scholarship at Georgia Tech would mean he has the funding to fly to international conferences to present his research on AI, or to spend a semester at the Georgia Tech campus in France. The application process for the stamps typically involves an early application to the university's honors college. If Jackson misses the priority deadline, often November 1st of his senior year, he is automatically disqualified from consideration. This is a crucial step-by-step detail. You cannot wait for an admission decision to apply for these merit awards. You must treat the honors college application as your primary focus from day one. The strategy for capturing institutional merit requires a high degree of administrative precision. First, you must identify which universities offer these Full Ride Plus programs. Second, you must determine if they are nomination-based, or if they require a separate supplemental application. Third, you must align your extracurricular profile with the specific mission of that scholarship. A program like the Park Scholarship at North Carolina State University, for instance, has a heavy emphasis on the intersection of science and leadership. If Jackson were applying for the Park, his AI research would be the centerpiece of his narrative, whereas for the Morehead-Cain, he might emphasize the ethical implications of his work on social service. The competition for these institutional awards has become so intense in 2026 that many students are now hiring specialized consultants to help them navigate the interview stages. However, the historical trends show that the most successful candidates are those who remain authentic. The selection committees at these universities are experts at sniffing out manufactured candidates. They want to see the real Jackson, the student who actually stayed up until 3 a.m. coding that logistics algorithm because he was genuinely frustrated by the inefficiencies he saw at the food bank. As we move toward the final stages of our masterclass, we have to address the reality of the 2026 landscape. Even with these massive awards, the majority of students will still need to find ways to stack smaller, niche scholarships to cover the remaining gaps or to fund their graduate school ambitions. We have looked at the corporate giants, the academic gatekeepers, the intellectual honors, and the institutional powerhouses. But there is one final category of merit that is often the most accessible and yet the most misunderstood. It is the world of specialized, high-dollar private foundations that don't care about your GPA or your leadership in the traditional sense. In the next part, we are going to dive into the world of the super niche merit awards. These are the scholarships for students with very specific life experiences or specialized talents that fall outside of the standard categories. We will look at how to find these hidden gems and how to leverage your unique identity to secure funding that most people don't even know exists. But before we get there, we need to talk about the merit trap. The common mistakes that even the smartest students make that result in their applications being discarded before they are even read. If you don't know the specific technical reasons why applications get flagged by automated systems in 2026, you are operating at a massive disadvantage. We are about to break down the technical side of the application funnel. In 2026, the scholarship application funnel has undergone a digital transformation that most students are completely unprepared for. When you submit an application to a high-volume program like the Coca-Cola Scholars or the Gates Scholarship, the first entity to review your work is almost certainly an artificial intelligence or an automated screening system. These systems are designed to filter out the noise, and if you do not understand the technical parameters they operate under, your merit might never even reach a human set of eyes. This is the merit trap of the mid-2020s. Historical trends show that thousands of qualified applicants are disqualified every year not because they lack talent, but because their digital files are technically incompatible, or their writing triggers an authenticity red flag. Consider the case study of Sophia, a high-achieving senior from Seattle in early 2026. Sophia has a 4.2 GPA and has spent her high school years developing a low-cost water filtration system for rural communities. She is exactly the type of student these foundations want. However, when she applied for several national merit awards, she made a critical technical error. To save time, she used a generative AI tool to polish her essays, resulting in a prose style that was mathematically perfect but devoid of human voice. In 2026, many top-tier scholarship committees utilize advanced detection algorithms that measure the perplexity and burstiness of your writing. If your essay is too uniform, meaning the sentence length and structure are too consistent, it is flagged as non-authentic. Sophia's application was moved to a secondary pile that was never reviewed. Step 1 in avoiding the technical trap is to understand file metadata and formatting. In 2026, many platforms prefer specific PDF versions that allow for easy data extraction. If you submit a scanned image of a document or a Word file with complex formatting, the automated system might fail to read your key accomplishments. You must ensure that your extracurricular list is formatted in a way that the system can parse. This means using standard headers like position, organization, dates, and hours. If you try to be too creative with your resume layout, you risk the machine skipping over your most impressive stats. Historical data from admissions consultants suggest that a clean, linear, and searchable document has a significantly higher chance of clearing the first automated hurdle. Furthermore, you must be aware of your digital footprint as a component of your merit. In 2026, scholarship committees often use automated tools to conduct a sentiment analysis of an applicant's public social media presence. If you claim to be a leader in civil discourse in your essay, but your public profiles show a history of aggressive or unprofessional interactions, the system will flag the discrepancy. Case studies of students who had their awards rescinded or their applications denied often point to this mismatch between the written application and the digital reality. To optimize your potential outcomes, you should treat your LinkedIn profile as an extension of your scholarship application. In the current year, high-achieving high schoolers are using LinkedIn to document their projects in real time, providing a chronological, verified trail of their merit that human reviewers can verify with a single click. Now, let us transition into the world of the Super Niche Merit Awards. While we have focused on the massive national programs, the year 2026 has seen an explosion in high-dollar awards focused on specific career paths and identities. These are not small stipends. They are significant financial contributions that can be stacked on top of other aid. One of the most prominent is the Tylenol Future Care Scholarship. This award is specifically designed for students who are pursuing careers in healthcare and can demonstrate a deep commitment to patient care. The historical trend for this award shows a preference for students who have hands-on experience, such as volunteering as an EMT or working in a clinical research setting. For a student like Sophia, who is interested in the intersection of engineering and medicine, this represents a potential outcome of $10,000 in non-renewable funding that can cover the gap left by larger institutional awards. Another heavy hitter in the niche category is the AXA Achievement Scholarship, which in 2026 has been rebranded to focus even more heavily on risk management and financial literacy. This scholarship looks for students who have demonstrated an ability to solve a specific problem in their community. It is a one-time award that can reach up to $25,000. The key to winning this award is a detailed, evidence-based project report. You cannot just say you did something. You must provide a step-by-step breakdown of the problem, the intervention, and the measurable result. Imagine a student who noticed a lack of financial education in their community and developed a mobile app to teach basic budgeting to low-income families. This level of tangible impact is exactly what the AXA committee seeks. We must also discuss the ELK's Most Valuable Student (MVS) Scholarship. This is one of the most unique programs in the country because it combines a national competition with a local, community-based structure. In 2026, the ELK's National Foundation distributes millions of dollars in scholarships, with the top awards reaching $50,000 over 4 years. The selection process begins at the local ELK's lodge level. This is a critical strategic detail. To maximize your potential outcomes, you must be willing to engage with your local community leaders. The MVS Scholarship values leadership, community involvement, and academic excellence. But the interview process at the local lodge is where many students fail. You are often being interviewed by community members who have been part of the organization for decades. They are looking for respect, humility, and a genuine desire to serve. Case studies of ELK's MVS winners show that they are often the backbone of their communities. They are the students who lead the local food drives, coordinate the blood donations, and serve as mentors for younger children. In 2026, the ELKs have also introduced specific vocational scholarships for students who are not pursuing a traditional 4-year degree, but are instead looking at high-skill trade programs. This is a significant shift in the merit landscape, recognizing that merit is not limited to the ivory tower of academia. Finally, we look at the Cameron Impact Scholarship. This is a merit-based, full-tuition scholarship that is awarded to students who have demonstrated a high level of excellence in academics, extracurricular activities, and community service. What sets the Cameron apart in 2026 is its focus on character. They are looking for students who are not just high achievers, but who are good people. The application involves a detailed peer recommendation, which is rare for merit awards. They want to know what your classmates think of you. Do you lift others up? Or are you only focused on your own success? This scholarship represents a potential outcome of hundreds of thousands of dollars for a student who can prove they are a leader of character. As we have seen, the landscape of 2026 Merit 8 is a complex ecosystem of technical filters, local community connections, and specific professional pathways. You must be as technically proficient as you are academically gifted. You must be able to navigate the automated systems while still maintaining a deeply human and authentic narrative. You must be a researcher, a leader, a citizen, and a digital strategist all at once. We are reaching the final stage of this masterclass. We have deconstructed the Big Five, the institutional shadow system, and the niche high-dollar awards. But all of this information is useless if you do not have a unified strategy to tie it all together. How do you manage 10 different deadlines, 20 different essay prompts, and 5 different interview formats without burning out? How do you ensure that your merit is communicated consistently across every platform? In the final part of this series, we are going to build your ultimate 2026 scholarship battle plan. We will provide a week-by-week timeline for your senior year, a system for recycling and refining your essays, and a master list of the critical dates you cannot afford to miss. we are going to look at the final case study of a student who managed to secure over $1 million in total merit offers and the exact organizational system they used to do it. The final piece of the puzzle is about to fall into place. To understand the final stage of this masterclass, we must look at the case study of Leo, a high school senior from Atlanta, Georgia, who in the spring of 2026 became a national headline in the educational community. Leo was not a perfect student in the traditional sense. He did not have a perfect 1600 on his SAT, nor was he the valedictorian of his class. However, by the time he received his final acceptance letters, he had secured over $1.2 million in total merit-based scholarship offers from 45 different institutions and foundations. Leo did not accomplish this through luck. He accomplished it by treating the scholarship process as a full-time professional operation. He built a system that allowed him to scale his efforts without compromising the quality of his message. The foundation of Leo's success was what he called the scholarship matrix. In 2026, the volume of information is so vast that attempting to manage it through memory or a simple to-do list is a recipe for missed opportunities. Leo's matrix was a sophisticated spreadsheet that tracked every possible variable for 50 different applications. He had columns for the primary deadline, the internal school deadline for counselor reports, the specific essay prompts, the word counts required, and the contact information for every scholarship coordinator. More importantly, he included a probability of outcome column based on historical trends of previous winners. This allowed him to prioritize his energy on the awards where his profile had the highest alignment with the mission of the foundation. Imagine if you could look at your senior year not as a chaotic scramble for money, but as a series of high-probability strategic moves. Leo began his research in the summer of 2025, long before his peers were even thinking about their personal statements. He spent 2 hours every Saturday morning identifying the intersection between his unique value proposition and the donor's intent. By the time September 1, 2025 arrived, he had a locked and loaded calendar. This is the first step in your 2026 battle plan. You must move from a reactive mindset to a proactive one. You are not just a student looking for help. You are a high-value asset seeking the right investment partner. The second pillar of Leo's strategy was the core narrative method. This is the technical answer to the problem of essay burnout. Instead of writing 50 unique essays, Leo identified the 4 universal themes that almost every merit-based scholarship in America asks for: the narrative of leadership, the narrative of adversity, the narrative of vision, and the narrative of community. He wrote 4 master essays, each 1,000 words long, that represented the most polished, authentic versions of these stories. Then, when a new application appeared, he would use these master essays as a modular base. He would carefully adapt the introductory and concluding paragraphs to align with the specific values of the organization, ensuring the core of the story remained high impact. Historical trends suggest that this modular approach results in a higher quality of writing, because it allows the student to spend more time refining a few great stories, rather than rushing through dozens of mediocre ones. Let us break down the week-by-week timeline that Leo followed to achieve his $1.2 million potential outcome. The month of September is the foundation phase. This is when you must secure your recommenders. Leo did not just ask his teachers for a letter. He provided them with a brag sheet that highlighted the specific values of the scholarships he was applying for. If he was applying for the Coca-Cola Scholars Program, he reminded his teacher of the specific time he led the citywide STEM initiative. This ensured that the letters of recommendation were not generic praise, but targeted evidence of his merit. October and November are the peak production months. This is when the early deadlines for the most prestigious institutional awards, like the Jefferson or the Moorhead Cane, typically fall. During this period, Leo maintained a strict schedule of submitting at least 2 applications per week. He treated every Tuesday and Thursday evening as his scholarship office hours. By spreading the work out, he avoided the quality drop-off that happens when students try to finish 5 applications the night before the November 1st deadline. He also focused on the scholarship-specific supplements that are often hidden within the university application portals themselves. In 2026, many students miss out on thousands of dollars simply because they do not click through every tab in the common application or the university-specific portals. December is the month of local leverage. While his peers were waiting for early decision results, Leo shifted his focus to the local and regional awards offered by civic organizations in Atlanta. These awards, while smaller in dollar amount, ranging from $1,000 to $5,000, have a much smaller applicant pool. Historically, these local lodges, Rotary clubs, and community foundations receive far fewer applications than the national programs. Leo applied to 15 local awards in December, knowing that these could be stacked on top of any institutional aid he received. This is the concept of merit stacking. If you secure a full-ride institutional award, and then win 3 local $5,000 scholarships, many universities will allow you to apply those outside funds toward your first-year housing, a high-end laptop, or even a future study abroad fund. January through March is the interview and refinement phase. This is where Leo's preparation truly paid off. Because he had been so meticulous in his written applications, he was invited to 7 finalist weekends. He treated these like professional business trips. He researched the members of the selection committees, practiced his elevator pitch, and prepared questions that showed he understood the long-term mission of the foundation. He understood that in the final round, everyone is smart and everyone has a high GPA. The differentiator is who is the most prepared to contribute to the scholar community. By April 2026, Leo found himself in a position of ultimate leverage. He had multiple full-ride offers. This leads us to the final, often unspoken, part of the merit-based landscape: the ability to leverage historical trends of institutional competition. When Leo was offered a prestigious award at a university that was his second choice, he contacted the financial aid office of his top choice. He did not ask for more money. He simply informed them that he had been named a scholar at a peer institution and asked if there were any additional merit-based fellowships or honors programs he might be considered for. In 2026, universities are increasingly willing to find additional funding to secure a student who has been validated by other elite organizations. This is not about negotiation in a transactional sense. It is about communicating your market value as a scholar. As we conclude this deep dive masterclass, you must realize that the title of scholar is more than just a financial designation. It is an identity that you carry with you into the next decade of your life. The students we have discussed, Marcus, Elena, Maya, Sarah, Mateo, Chloe, Jackson, and Leo, all shared a common trait. They stopped viewing education as something that happens to them and started viewing it as something they actively build. They realized that in the American educational system of 2026, merit is not just a status you achieve. It is a story you tell with evidence, precision, and persistence. The potential outcomes for those who master this system are not just about debt-free degrees. They are about the freedom to take risks, the ability to start a business right out of college, the opportunity to travel the world, and the power to enter the workforce with the network of the most influential people in the country. Your merit is your currency. How you choose to invest it over the next 12 months will determine the trajectory of your life for the next 40 years. The puzzle is now complete, and the roadmap is in your hands. But the landscape of American education is constantly shifting, and new opportunities are emerging in fields we haven't even touched on yet. While you prepare your applications for these top 5 awards, there is a whole other dimension of funding that is opening up for the pioneers of the next industrial revolution. In our next deep dive, we are going to look at the hidden world of public-private partnership scholarships and the rise of the sovereign-funded education grants. We will explore how international competition for American talent is creating a new category of merit aid that most students haven't even heard of. The era of the global scholar is just beginning, and you need to be ready for what comes next.